Now recently there has been this NEET UG examination which was conducted, and lots of controversies surrounding this examination. For the students who will be appearing in the future and for the students who already appear, I would just like to pinpoint certain points which would be highly in favor of the students. So basically, what is a NEET UG ideal examination? Issue is that, first of all, the purpose of the examination for any student appearing for any examination, not specifically for NEET UG, the purpose of the examination is manifold. The first thing is that what we test the attention of the student, we test the orientation of the student, we test the insight of the student, we test the judgment of the student, and we test the ability of a student to arrive at a conclusion, to arrive at an answer. These are the fundamentals of any examination. So for an examination to be a very standard examination, it should test all these modalities of the examination. Now what we have recently seen that purpose of the examination has lost a bit of a credibility. Now never it is the purpose of an examination that जो हमने पिछले ये कुछ वीडियोस देख लिए स्टूडेंट्स को रोते हुए देखा निकलते हुए एग्जामिनेशन हॉल्स में से, to make a student cry should never be the objective of an examination or the examiner. Paper should not be there to intimidate a student. Examinations are not meant for that purpose. And the best examiner and the best examination system is that which tests the ability of a student to know what he has studied, not the ability to know what he has not studied. So examinations are not there to test what he or she does not know. That's important. Now, if the examination is conducted in such a manner that an examiner would put himself in such a position that it tests the incompetence of the examiner, then that examination has no value. Not to make a student cry, not to intimidate a student, and not to test the incompetence of the examiner. It is to test the competence of a student, how he or she will fare, and to distinguish between students of various grades. So that's another thing. Now, as far as this NEET UG is concerned, we have these three subjects dominating: physics, chemistry, and biology. Now, I don't understand. The logic method would have been, if a student has to be a doctor, he should be tested more about the medical subjects. A student who has to become a doctor should not be tested as an engineer, and a person who has to be an engineer should not be tested about medical specialties. So basically, for a student to appear for the medical specialties should be tested more in his biology, and to be specifically in zoology, not botany. Nothing to talk about the chunk of questions appearing from physics and chemistry. So the ideal NEET UG examination for a medical student should have less chunk of questions from physics as well as chemistry, and more from biology, and more from medical biology, not from botany. So that's important. That lends a very specific ability of an examiner to test. Now a student already has cleared 11th and 12th with these all branches, physics, chemistry, and biology. His competence and his merit already tells he has passed these subjects, and then he is eligible for this entrance examination, this NEET UG examination. So we need not to test his skills in physics and chemistry here. He has proved his efficiency already. That is why he is eligible for NEET UG examinations. So the chunk of questions from medical field, from biology, should be more, and that makes it reasonable for the examinations to be specific. Now, credibility. Now, you cannot put questions in such a manner that a student is not able to solve most of the questions. Once the experts judged these answers and they could not arrive at an answer after 15 minutes. So if an expert is not able to arrive at an answer after 15 minutes, how do you expect a NEET UG student to have, say, 1 or 2 minutes to solve this question and come out with the correct answer? So that means that two students, a student who has appeared and attempted most of the questions, and another student who has left most of the questions, a student who has left most of the questions will fare better, because a student who has attempted or over-attempted and got the questions wrong, he's at a losing end. So that is the credibility of the paper gets lost. Especially we have seen in physics, wherein a large quantum, a large chunk of questions were asked which were not within the range. You cannot, there's a level, there's a grade, a super specialty range, a postgraduate range, and an undergraduate range. You cannot place a super specialty question in a postgraduate level, and you cannot place a postgraduate question at an undergraduate level. That is how the examination should be conducted. Number one. Number second, it should be ideally, it should be that a student should attempt all the questions. It should be mandatory for a student to attempt all the questions. And now, if you are feeling that last year the merit was high, many students got 99, 98 percentiles, and you just are thinking that the examination loses its credibility by a student securing 99% marks. But you see, even in under 11th and 12th, where we have long essay type questions, students didn't score 98, 99. So what is the problem with the examination system? There's an MCQ system, and in case the students get 100% marks, no problem. We cannot deny a brilliant student the chance of getting 100% marks. He has that capability, he has that range, he has that efficiency to get 100%. So we should not bar a student from getting, and that increases the credibility of the examination. No, that should not be the point. And in case now you want that there should be a level, why to keep -1 for a negative mark? Keep -4 for the negative. If a student gets a question wrong, keep it in the range from -4 to -2 marks, and that will drop the merit, and a good student will eventually do well, and a bad not so good student will not fare well. So my point is that the examination should have all the questions should be mandatory, or keep a 95%, 90%, that no, any student who attempts less than 90% of the questions, he should not be at an advantage. So that's important. And then the negative marking, you can increase the negative marking, and that adds the credibility to the examination. Now, in addition to that, because it is eventually the examiner, the expert, who has to set the questions, and the credibility of the examiner and the expert is important. Experts are experts. They are not just labeled as experts. They should be experts in real-time practice. A physics person who knows the subject well is an expert. A chemistry person who knows the subject well is an expert, and he should know the art of putting the questions. So number one, first of all, an examiner has to decide the level of difficulty of a question, whether the question is severely difficult, moderately difficult, or it is easy. Now, to increase the standard of the examination, let him keep a question which is moderate or severely difficult. So keep a large quantum of questions which are severely difficult or moderately difficult, but you cannot keep the questions which are rather not solvable by a student. That does not indicate any examination. To me, it does not serve the purpose of an examination. That's very important. And number second, the question should be attemptable. So you are just having a level, and a student has to appear for a NEET UG examination, physics, chemistry, biology. The questions in all the three subjects, with more of the questions in biology and less of the questions in physics and chemistry, as already told you. And the question should be attemptable, not like that the question should take 20 minutes, 30 minutes to solve, and then we just leave the student to a lot of luck and chance. That's another thing. Questions of relevance, that's very important. Now, you can put a question that dash scientist died in the year dash. What does this question convey? Nothing. There is no concept involved. It checks whether a student knows the year in which this personality died. it has no concept. It is just a cramming power. You do not test a student any modality. So the questions relevant are that you place a question in which a student has to apply his or her mind, in which a student has to think, in which a student has to rationalize, and then the options about the question should be relevant. They should not be too far away from each other so that a student is tested on that modality. Now, time frame. Again, you place a question in physics which an expert does not solve in 20 minutes and expect a student, usually level student, to solve that question in 2 minutes. Unfair. It is a very unfair practice. Standard examinations don't warrant such type of practices. It is very bad on the part of the examining authorities, on the part of any agencies whatsoever, in case they put questions which do not have strict time frames and which are solvable within the strict time frames which have set. Now, again, to differentiate the student who is excellent, who is good, and who is not so good. We cannot say that a student is bad. No student is bad. To distinguish between a student who is excellent, who is good, very good, and not so good. This is the purpose of the examiner, to test a student on these modalities. So these are very important points which should be under consideration for all the examinations. And my particular suggestion to the authorities is that they place those examiners who are competent enough to just check all these modalities I have told you. Now, what is important, sometimes the questions can be leaked, the examination sequence can go wrong, and you have to remember that for that confidentiality in any examination is important. And what is important for us, how does an agency show that the examinations are conducted are credible? Now the question paper has been set, the answers are given there, and at that point of time the key should be available to the student within few hours after the examination. What that signifies? That signifies that the expert who just gave the questions, they had a proper key, and the key is out in minutes after the examination. That adds to the credibility of the examination, rather than prolonging the key which will be uploaded after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month after that. That does not suit in a national level examination. So the key should be out ASAP. That's important. Now, what is we're doing? We're just mixing things, reverse judgment. You place, and after conducting the examination, you just give a time frame to the students. If any student has objection, kindly file the objections. What examination is that? In which a student is asked to test the competence of the examiner. Basically, the examination is to test the skill of a student, not the skill of an examiner. The question paper should be of such a nature that there should be no error, 0.0% error, neither in grammar, nor in the content, nor in the options, nor in the question itself. So that is where a best expert comes into being. There should be no doubt about the option. Which answer is correct? No doubt. A, B, C, D options, and only one should be correct, and that should be correct by miles. There should be no scope of confusion among the options, and the key again should be, that's what I am telling you, key should be available immediately, and no scope of confusion among the options. So no scope of error. And what you can do, if you have taken few examiners, you can isolate them for a period of few days up till they set the paper, and after the papers are done, the examination is done, you can just get them out of isolation, and that's the way of preserving the secrecy of the examinations. I hope that is done in most of the examinations. Now, you do not always need a big team. No, it's wrong. You get 2 questions from here, you get 2 questions from Delhi, you get 2 questions from Mumbai, you get 5 questions from Kolkata, 5 questions from Chennai. No, you don't need that many. This examination can be conducted in a very nice manner by a small group of dedicated people, having a high IQ, having a good experience, and having sincerity of purpose. So you need basically 3 experts, one from physics, one from chemistry, one from biology, who set the paper and then they take all the modalities into consideration what I have discussed, rather than getting questions from multiple sources where there are higher chances of leakage by getting too many people into the system. So I think that we need a small expert and a specific team for conduct of the examination. Now, what these examinations have done, they just have proven that the quality, the quantity, and the way the examinations have been conducted are not in accordance with the high standards by which a national examination should be conducted. So for the future, for the students, they should just take their studies very seriously. They should have a standard which is I mean to say that their learning and their teaching standard should be in line with the expectations of the examiners, and the examiners also should come to the expectation of the students. So I hope that there is a bit of advice for every quarter in this video. I hope that this helps you a bit. Thanks a lot.